Hey everybody, this is Matt. Thank you for joining me again as we look at trying to carve a wood spirit out of this old piece of cottonwood bark just using a couple of flex cut knives. And so the idea with this little series is that if you're a brand new wood carver and you only have two knives, you're just trying to figure out whether or not this is something you might enjoy, then this would be a nice little project for you. Please watch the first video if you haven't yet. The first video kind of outlines how we got to where we are today, and it shows how we got roughed in to try and establish the major features of this face. So what you're going to see us working on, you've already seen me kind of clean up the mouth just a little bit, the lower chin region. What I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to sort of establish the where the mustache is going to go. What I'm working on now is I'm trying to thin the nose down just a little bit. I'm looking at the nose and realizing that for this piece of wood, the nose is a little bit too fat, so just thinning it down a little bit. Right here I'm establishing more separation between the mustache and the bottom of the nose. And so whenever you're just using a knife, you don't really have a gouge, you just make a series of V-cuts. You cut from one angle, and then you connect another cut to the bottom of that first cut at a different angle. And so essentially what you're doing is you're gouging out a V. Of course, they make V-tools to do that, but we don't have V-tools for this project, so we're trying some new things. Alright, so now I'm trying to push the eye sockets and cheekbones a little bit further back away from that nose. I'm constantly checking each side, trying to see if I've got my depths about the same. And you can go ahead and you maybe can see it a little bit. I'm actually already kind of rounding the cheekbones back away from the nose. And I'm trying to round the eye sockets, the upper side of the eye socket out a little bit. I found whenever you carve eyes that it's easier to carve an eye if you try and focus on the eye socket more than the actual eye that you're going to see, or the iris and the eyeball beneath the eyelid. So you can see that I've established both the eye that you'll see, where the iris is, and the eye socket itself. And so I'm carving the eye socket first. I don't know why, it's easier for me whenever I do this, trying to establish where the eye socket is. As we go further along, it'll make it to where it looks a little bit more realistic whenever you focus on the eye socket instead of the eye. So now what I'm doing is I'm actually kind of getting on the eye. And the way you do that is you just you carve straight down into your little outline that you drew in first, and then you come back and from the center of the eye make another V cut, connect that to the bottom of the cut like we did before, and what you'll do is it'll naturally cause your eye to look round because the center of the eye is going to stay protruding out as you connect the bottom of your cut into the eyelid. And so it'll naturally look like your eye is a little bit rounded. Now what you also want to do, and this really helped me with my eyes whenever I'm carving, always make sure that the corner of your eyes are almost exaggerated in a way that they're pushed into the wood. And so it's probably a little bit hard to see with my carving, or with this camera. This isn't the greatest camera, of course, but I'll focus a lot on the corners of the eyes, just constantly pushing it further and further in the wood, and that'll really help you get a nice realistic look, a nice 3D look on your carving. So I'm coming back, this is a different day, I'm coming back and I'm working on that top portion of the eye socket. Again, I'm just trying to push back the eye socket to make just the slightest little bit of indentation I mean, it's a lot easier with a V-tool. It's a lot easier with gouges. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But we're going to try it with our little flex cut detail knife here. I actually really love the flex cut detail knife's handle. It is fantastic. It fits perfectly in my hand. The only thing I don't like about the flex cut detail knife is that the blade is still just a hair too wide. A detail knife, especially for working with cottonwood, has to be extremely thin. And actually on this project you can't really see it because again my camera is not a very good quality, but on this project I've already broken a piece of the eye out that I didn't mean to, and I ended up having to kind of cut the eye a little bit deeper than I really wanted to for this stage of the project. And that's all because the flex cut blade itself is just a hair too thick. But I mean, you know, it's an advantage and disadvantage. It's gonna hold its edge a little bit longer, but the edge itself is not going to be as sharp. So kind of a trade-off. So now what I'm doing, I'm just kind of cleaning up the nose a little bit. I've just been making really rough cuts to try and establish around the nose. So you can kind of see the eyes are starting to take a little bit of shape. Oh, hang on. There we go. I'm repositioning so you can see a little bit of the shadow there for a second. But for this stage, we're not really too far in detail. I'm just trying to get a general. I'm trying to get a little bit of detail, trying to really kind of define a little bit more of the shape, those eye sockets where the eye is actually going to be open. We'll come back on the next video and really put some detail in. Still just focusing on the corner of that eye. And even focusing on the corner of that corner. Just constantly pushing those corners back. It really made it, doing that really helped me get my wood spirits to where they didn't look flat anymore. That was my biggest problem. A lot of different people have different problems whenever they carve. That was my biggest problem, is whenever I was first starting out, my wood spirits look flat. And you want to constantly be keeping your blade really sharp whenever you're doing this detail work. If it feels like it's pulling the least little bit, go ahead and just try and sharpen that thing back up with a strop. Still working on that corner. And then going to the other side and working on that corner. Still just pushing that corner back. I always try, and it seems to me that most carvings look better if you have the upper lid sort of overlap with the lower lid just a little bit. So you want to try and push the lower lid just a little bit further back in the carving. I think part of this is just that it adds a little bit of a shadow on your carving. So I usually try and have my upper eyelid just a little bit further out, protruding, than the lower eyelid is. See, I'm just focusing on those corners. Now we're starting to get a pretty decent looking eye. Again, not a whole lot of detail, and that's okay. We're not at that point yet. Okay, now we're going to go back down here to the mouth. I'm not really happy with how I did the mouth. I got a little bit too aggressive whenever I was carving around the mustache before. You can kind of see that the mustache itself is kind of hard to see. It just looks more like a fat upper lip. So I'm going to try and remedy that. I get a little bit close in this video. It's starting to get where I like for it to be. But in the next video, we're going to have to work on it just a little bit more, I think. So I'm pushing it a little bit further back into the wood. I want that nose to really protrude out from the mustache. And so what I'm going to do here, you'll see me in just a moment, is I'm going to take my pencil, once I sort of get a little bit of a frown carved in, I'm going to take my pencil and try and establish where the bottom lip's going to be. I just want to carve in the bottom lip. I don't want to carve anything on the top lip. I'm going to have the mustache sort of overlap over the upper lip, so you wouldn't be able to see it. So here I'm going to carve in the bottom lip, draw in the bottom lip. Make sure you keep your center line. That's what I'm double checking my center line to make sure how it's going to fall. And there's nothing really scientific about what I'm doing. It's just kind of a rough. I'm just trying to see where it's going to fall, and then I'm going to carve back it away from that lip. I'm going to carve my beard, because if you can think about it, a man's beard, or especially, I guess really it's his soul patch, I reckon. His soul patch really kind of starts just below the lip. I mean, it's a seamless thing, so you don't really want to carve in a lip so much as you just want to almost like just a little bit of an indentation below your bottom lip, where to kind of show where the lip is going to be. And so that's kind of what I'm going to try and carve, is that little bit of indentation. It's not really exact yet, but it'll get there soon. It's a lot easier with a gouge, but let's see how we can do it with the knife. But this will really kind of bring this second video to a close. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope you're learning a lot, especially if you're new to wood carving. And if you are, please like, subscribe, tune in again. I should have another video up this week, maybe in the middle of the week, and we'll see how this thing goes. So far I'm about probably about an hour and a half into the carving. If you're new, it's going to take a little bit longer, but that's okay. We'll learn together. Alright guys, hope to see you again. Thanks. Bye.